Hey everybody, Griff Hamlin here, and welcome to this video. What we're going to talk about today is basically what I call it making your own jam track. And this is something that came up while I was in a lesson, and I realized that a lot of us, we rely on jam tracks and stuff to practice over, but there's a lot to be learned and a lot to be gained by being able to keep time, both for yourself and potentially for somebody else. Let's say you're going to sit down with a buddy and play some blues. Well, one of you is going to have to keep a rhythm, and one of you is going to have to solo, or there's going to have to be some sort of give and take. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically take a couple of rhythm figures that are in one of my courses, Blues Guitar Unleashed or Blues Gig in a Box. There's several where a lot of these rhythm figures come up time and again. And so what I'm going to do is kind of mix these simple rhythms and simple chords with a bass note. And it's really not that challenging once you kind of put them all together if you can play each of the individual pieces. Now, to some degree, I'm going to assume that you can play some of these individual pieces, but I'll show you what I'm thinking about and how I'm going to approach this, and then I'll show you a couple of ways you can use it and then put it to use for yourself. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to basically have a blues in A. So I've got, A7 chord I'm thinking of, just a bar chord right here. I'm going to be thinking about D9 for my 4 chord, and I'm going to be thinking about E9 for my 5 chord. Now, again, if these are chords that you don't know, I have other videos that'll show you these, and the shapes are not hard to find. So I'm going to kind of move quickly through that. So the first rhythm figure that I want to use is very simple. It's I let beat 1 go by, which is something that you'll hear me talk about a lot. Both in rhythm and in lead playing, I let beat 1 go by. You're going to see that I'm going to use beat 1. I'm just going to do something different with it. So for right now, I'm going to let beat 1 go by. I'm going to strike on beat 2 and on beat 3, kind of like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3, 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So I'm hitting on beats 2 and on the 3 and on the and of 3. Now, I'm not going to use big giant chords, okay? Even if I was playing with a band, I wouldn't use these big giant chords. I wouldn't go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. It's just too big of a sound. It's too big and broad. It's going to clash with the keyboard player. It's going to clash with the bass player. It's just too much. I would use what I commonly call little chords. And again, if this is another thing I've made a video on in the past, so hopefully you've seen it. If not, you can find it. But it's the idea of getting rid of the lower strings. Lower being these ones that are the bass note strings. So I'm going to just play a little bit, and in fact, I might only play just the 3rd and the 4th strings, or maybe the 3rd, 4th, and 2nd. That's one thing that you'll hear me do a lot. Okay. Now, you can strum that, and the way I do that is I kind of let my first finger kind of leans over. You'll notice that I've got my first finger playing a bar across the 4th, 3rd, and 2nd strings, but it's also touching the 5th string so that it won't ring out. So right now, my first string is clunking out because my first finger is not pushing on it really, and my 5th string is not sounding. Okay, so I could strum it. But what you'll hear me do more than that, or perhaps see me do, is use my fingers on my right hand, my middle and my ring finger, possibly in conjunction with my pick. So I can get 3 notes comfortably, which is exactly how many I want. So I've got the 4th, 3rd, and 2nd string of my A7 chord, and I could finger the whole thing. It's not going to change the sound. So because I'm only plucking those 3 strings, you'll notice I could lay my fingers across it all, or not, and it doesn't change the sound at all, which is kind of cool. Okay, so that's what I'm going to use. I like to do that. I like to pluck. I like the immediacy of it. I like the attack. It's almost like a piano player. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. When it comes to the D9, again, I'm not playing the whole thing, but I could. Or I could play the top. It's up to you. these are things that you get to play with and you get to experiment with and choose the sounds you like. So I've got the A and the D, back to the A and 3, and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and my D, 2 and 3. And if you've ever seen, I have a video on what I call these little 2-note chords. You'll notice that these 2 notes just go back and forth. So there's the 1, there's the 4, there's the 1, and there's the 5. And it's very, very easy, and that works very, very well for this, okay? So I've got my chord shapes. I'm just going to use 2 or 3 notes each. But what I'm going to do, in order to be able to make, I'll say, a whole band out of just one guitar, I got to add some bass, okay? There's 3 things you need for a tune, was the way I look at it. You got to have rhythm, a bass movement of some sort. You got to have harmony, chords, and you got to have melody. Now, we can't do all 3 very comfortably. It can be done, but it's difficult. We're going to do some rhythm in the form of our bass and our what I'm going to call our comping pattern. Sometimes playing chords behind a band is called comping, C-O-M-P-I-N-G. Okay, so I'm going to use a comping pattern, which is striking on beat 2 and beats 3 and, as I showed you earlier. Now, you don't have to use the same pattern the whole time. I'm going to for the sake of demonstration. But when I was playing, as this video started, I was kind of using a few different things. And of course, you can use, there's a dozen chapters on this kind of stuff in Blues Guitar Unleashed, and you can use any of those patterns. They all work great. So don't feel like you have to just stick with what I'm showing you right here. I'm just trying to open the door, and show you this path in front of you. But there's a long way to go if you want to do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the bass note of each chord on beat 1. Okay, remember I said I'm going to skip beat 1 with my harmony, which was my chords. So I'm going to add rhythm both by striking the new chord. That's going to give rhythm and harmony. Okay, it's going to give the bass note on beat 1, so you'll get used to hearing that on beat 1. Plus, it's going to give the sound of the new chord. So it'll go something like this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 3 and 4 and 1. 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3, 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3, 4 and 1 and 2 and 3, 4 and 1 and 2 and 3, 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 4 and 1 and 2. Okay, and that's the whole thing. I just played through the entire 12 bars. Now, this is not the only way to do this. I could be doing this, kind of common feel. Okay, that's great for like a slow blues, but if you want to play a swing blues, and there's a lot of music that's a swing blues, this is a really good way to do it. Okay, so let me go through it again. I'm going to play it a little bit faster. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use a device often called a looper. I have one at my feet right now. It's by Line 6. It's called the M13. It has a bunch of different stomp boxes in it and stuff, models of stomp boxes. But one thing that it does have is a looper. Okay, and a looper is really handy because what you can do is you can play into it, play 12 bars, and then hit a button, and it'll loop that same 12 bars over and over again. Now, if you can play it in time and play it reasonably well, it'll just keep looping right back on itself, and it's like you're playing with yourself, you're as a band, all day long. So this is a great way. Sometimes you want to work out a new lick or something, and you don't want to go digging through your CDs or your MP3s trying to find a certain track. You just want to try out a little thing. Well, this is a really great way to do that. Or like I said, you could be playing with a buddy and maybe they're going to do the lead. So this is a way that you can lay down some chords for them. So it could be either for you or for them. Now, like I said, I'm going to use a looper by Line 6, but TC Electronics makes them. They're in a lot of Boss delay pedals. They're in, like I said, Line 6 has 2 or 3 different ones. Jam Man, Digitech. There's a whole bunch of them out there. Loopers are very, very common, and they're great little practice tools. So, anyway, let me show you. I'm gonna play this with my pedal, and you'll see what happens. So, now I might embellish this slightly. I might do some little half steps, and I might hit on some other beats. But I'm going to try and keep it fairly straight for you. Here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now notice that it's still going. So here is where I can play over it. And so on and so forth. And truth be told, I've been known to do that for a half an hour and just play over it. It's a lot of fun. But there's something really organic and just fun about laying down a little rhythm like that. It's not complicated, okay? But it gets the point across. It has all the elements. It has some rhythm. It has some harmony. When you start noodling over it, then you've created some melody. So you've created all the elements of music together. So I hope you enjoy this. I hope you've had some fun with it, and I will see you in the next video.